Somewhere between desperation and hope sits Barbara Gould and her family.
I know. It's sort of the story that never ends.
I used to live in this world of like, that would never happen to us, whether, it was COVID or car accidents or whatever. And the last 3 years have been kind of my slap in the face that it absolutely can happen to us.
Just days after her COVID diagnosis, doctors called Barbara the sickest of the sick. Her family, separated from her ICU room, felt as isolated as she.
When I knew I was dying, there were things that I was very sad about missing.
And yet, fate had other plans. Modest recovery followed. So did good days, big days, momentous days, years of them, years of days with her family.
I see the joy that my children feel. Rebecca at her wedding, all of us at Rebecca's wedding. Watching Sully as he grows up and gets even more perfect with every day.
Perfect. An interesting word, considering her recovery has been far from it. Her liver in particular. Cirrhosis is the late stage of liver disease. Her liver was shutting down, thanks to all those days when doctors, desperate to save her life, put her on a machine that did the work of her then failing lungs.
I mean, the blood was coming out of her body and being oxygenated and being put back in her body, certainly not something very natural. She is amazing in that she lived, but she did suffer what I believe is low blood flow to her liver.
Dr. James Burton said real recovery would require a new one.
And I said, I don't know how you make an ask of somebody. I don't know how you do that. And he said, you just ask. You just put it out there and you'll be surprised.
Call it the big ask. In need of a miracle, her family
It's not,
settled on time.
it's not her time. It wasn't her time in April 2020, and it's not her time now, and it won't be her time for many years.
I'm hopeful. I'm not afraid.
That's when life delivered Casey, a friend of Barbara's kids. She barely knew Barbara, but Casey knew one thing all too well.
To be honest with you, this whole process, it's kind of been a no-brainer, I feel like. And I understand that might not be the normal thought process for this, but I have something that somebody else needs, that why wouldn't I help?
Casey would like to believe anyone would do this, give up 65% of their liver to someone hanging on to hope.
It's a very little sacrifice for me, in my opinion, that could potentially save a life, so.
The surgery took 7 hours. Their livers will fully regenerate in the coming months. Casey, who happens to be a mountain climber, sees the mountain Barbara's been climbing.
And a big thing with climbing mountains is false summits, where you think that's the top, and then you get up there and you realize, oh no, it's over there. I'm hopeful that this is the true summit, and then, we just get down safely.
So good to see you.
Likewise. Oh, Casey, thank you.
Literally a lifesaver. You're saving my life, and it's hard to take that in. It's hard to say those words. And
the thin line between desperation and hope. 3 years into this, they'd like to sit in the latter. Feels better there. It always has.
So how do you say thank you for that?
No need.
I'll buy you a drink a year from now.
It'll be the best drink I've ever had,
Right,
I'm sure.
that's right.
Yeah.
It will be.
No drinks for a year. The next year does come with a few rules. Casey, by the way, went home 5 days after the transplant surgery. And the staff at University of Colorado Hospital said goodbye to Barbara today. That is just 13 days post-surgery. Her husband, Alan, and her kids, Rebecca and Sam, say they now have a much bigger family thanks to Casey, because Casey and her wife are part of their family.
That's remarkable. I mean, and to know that the doctor had the presence of mind to understand that there are these wonderful altruistic people in the world, living organ donors, that will respond to an ask, and to tell Barbara, just ask.
And Casey just kind of followed it on social media a little. And Rebecca started putting these messages out. But Dr. Burton said Colorado is really among the best. He said, I know people think this is hard to believe, but people will give a kidney to a stranger, and then they might come back a few years later and say, hey, somebody needs a liver. I'm interested in helping. He said he thinks it's something just special about Colorado.
Some people are built special.
So,
yeah,
yeah.
That's a great story.